What is up, everyone? Boschee here, back at it in Raid Shadow Legends, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about the 10 times summoning event happening this Friday on 2/19. Now, for any newer players, I do want to give a disclaimer that with a 10 times summoning event, this does not mean you have a higher chance of summoning an epic or legendary. It just means if you summon an epic or legendary during this event, you have a higher chance of getting these specific champions I'm going to talk about. If you have any questions for it though, leave a comment down below and let me know, and I will get back to you on that. Also, if you didn't know, on the event you can actually click on the portal when it's all glowy and everything. Go ahead and click on it, hit the information button, and you can see the default summoning chances right here, and then the champions that will be included in the 10 times event, just to make sure if you want to summon during this event. So I just wanted to, throw that out there for any of the newer players that might not know that information. But like always, I will go through each of the champions on this list, go through their kit, let you know my opinion on that specific champion, and at the end of the video, I'll let you guys know if I think you guys should be summoning during this event, or if it'll be good for you guys and whatnot. But yeah, if you like this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for future content, and also not just for the newer players, but go ahead and comment down below and let me know if you guys are going for any of these champions specifically. I know of one champion that I think everyone's going to want to go after. Unfortunately, it's during a 10 times event, but yeah. So let's go ahead and jump through the list. So the list, or the theme for this 10 times, by the way, is Provoking Champions. So Provoking, very good at CCing in PvP, or very good at CCing in faction wars. Honestly, overall, probably the best crowd control ability or debuff in the game. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. So Bannerlord, the very first one is Seneschal. So very underrated champion, has a leech on the A1, can get that up to a 40% chance to land. Leech is one of my favorite debuffs in the game, honestly. It allows for sustain on a team pretty much without having people in lifesteal gear. So really good A1. On the A2, you have Misdirect, places a perfect Veil buff and a 15% continuous heal buff on an ally for 2 turns, and you can drop it down to a 2-turn cooldown with books. Really good at hiding away your damage dealer from, like, pretty much protecting them from being the target. And also, Perfect Veil helps reduce AoE damage, which will help continuous heal get that person back up. Overall, can keep this up 100% majority of the time, depending. And then, yeah, so overall, really good at, protecting your damage dealer. And then on the A3 is his taunt ability, Lordly Challenge. Place a counterattack buff on this champion for 2 turns, and then has a 50% chance, could book it all the way up to 100% chance though, which I do recommend if you're going to use this champion, of placing a Provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. So he has a AoE Provoke, which is really cool. And then with that AoE Provoke, you putting a counterattack up, which when he counterattacks will have that chance to land the Leech. So can possibly put Leech on every enemy, even though it is only a 40% chance, but really good CC ability overall and can allow for sustain. So really good at what he does. He helped me get through the earlier stages of faction wars, and honestly, if I didn't pull better champions or higher rarity champions, he probably would have been in my faction 21 team. So overall, really good at supporting your team and very underrated in my opinion. Next is going to be a Dark Elf by the name of Crimson Helm. So Crimson Helm, a defensive champion, honestly looks really cool. Love the weapon, love the shield. But yeah, on the A1, Sucker Punch, attack one enemy, has a 30% chance or 50% chance, if booked, of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff. Having a decrease attack debuff on the A1 is really good, just because typically you can keep it up consistently. It is only for 1 turn, unfortunately, so that's kind of bad. I wish it would be a 2-turn debuff, but yeah. So decrease attack, very key debuff in my opinion though. On the A2, Vile Tongue, attack 4 times at random. Each hit has a 75% chance or 100% chance, if booked, of placing a Provoke debuff for 1 turn. Places a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn. Overall, I'm not a big fan of this ability, and the reason is the very first line, attacks 4 times at random, which means you can attack the same target more than once. I wish they would just change this to attack all enemies. But yeah, it makes the Provoke ability not reliable enough to CC a whole wave and whatnot. I do like the mechanic of placing Provoke and then adding a block damage to herself so she takes no damage. But yeah, kind of iffy on this ability. And then on the A3 Unguard, place a revive on death buff and a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns, and you can drop it down to a 4-turn cooldown. Once again, not a big fan of this ability, and the reason being is that you're adding revive on death and an increased defense buff, which prevents you from taking damage to die. I wish it was a revive on death and then increased defense when they revive to, allow for survivability after the fact. But yeah, overall, not the best champion in my opinion. I definitely would not be going for her during the 10 times event. Not like bad, I guess, if you're needing something for faction wars and you need some CC. In my opinion, I just think there's better champions out there. And then she does have an aura for all ally HP in dungeons by 33%. You do an increase for that. But yeah, and she's extremely slow. So not a lot of things going for Crimson Helm, unfortunately, but that's just my opinion. Next, we're going to go after a Skinwalker named Warchief. So Warchief is a meme of a legendary, in my opinion. Okay, that is the big thing in the community, I guess. In my opinion, I actually think he's a decent champion, and he definitely has his places in the game. But yeah, let's go ahead and go through his kit. A1 Brutal Force, attack one enemy 3 times, has a 25% chance or 35% chance if you book of placing a Provoke debuff for 1 turn. Damage inflicted is proportional to defense. So very basic A1 with a Provoke. Very consistent though, since it is on an A1. And then you have the A2 Marauder, attack one enemy, place a Provoke debuff for 3 turns, steals 2 random buffs from the target. And you can drop this down to a 3-turn cooldown with books, so you can pretty much keep this up 100% of the time. And then you have the passive Standstill, reflects 60% of the damage taken back to the attacker, and then defense is increased by 15% for each dead ally. So the reason why I actually like this champion is that he is a beast in PvP, with the lockout capability of, with his A2 and his A1, he can possibly lock out 2 people at once. And then the fact that if he is the last person standing, he's reflecting damage back, but he's also increasing his defense by a ridiculous amount. And while he's the only one alive, he's pretty much locking out who else is alive on the opponent team. So yeah, in my opinion, not bad for PvP. The other place I think he is actually extremely good in, I should say, is Magma Dragon. So Magma Dragon in Doom Tower, you can place a Provoke on and you can lock him out and let your team do whatever else they're doing. So yeah, very, very good at Doom Tower, Magma Dragon, and PvP. And even has his place in faction wars, in my opinion. So overall, not the best legendary by far. Like, I don't know if he deserves legendary status. In my opinion, though, I think he's pretty good. But if you look at his reviews, he has terrible reviews. But yeah, I think he has his place. But I'd imagine not a lot of people are going for Warchief. So yeah. Next is going to be a dwarf by the name of Maulie Tankard. So Maulie Tankard was a fusion a long time ago, and then was in a 10 times event actually not that long ago as well. So overall, really good champion though. On the A1, literally a damaging ability, that's about it. Damage is increased by 50% if the target's under an HP burn. On the A2 is the Provoke ability. So Bar Brawl, place a Provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn, has a 50% chance of placing a Provoke debuff for 2 turns instead, and then places a 30% reflect damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. Really, really good at locking out your opponent while also doing damage with the reflect damage buff. Really good in PvP. I've seen her just because she is extremely quick, so she can be the first to go and just taunt the opponent team and just lock them out for the very first turn, or possibly 2 turns. On the A3, Cheers, revive an ally with 50% HP, fills their turn meter by 50%, and then places a block damage buff on that ally for 1 turn. can get this down to a 4-turn res. So overall, one of the best ally revives in my opinion, just because of the whole block damage portion, which is really key, honestly, in faction wars for keeping everyone alive. So once you revive, obviously you're only filling them up to 50% HP, but you're doing a block damage, which means they're going to survive their next hit, or up until their turn, I should say, and it makes sure that they at least get a turn. So very, very key in faction wars for 3-starring stuff. Really good in PvP, like I said, with the taunt ability and revive. And then also the passive Rowdy Crowd fills the turn meter of all allies by 15% when this champion is hit, and then fills the turn meter of all allies by 25% when this champion is hit by a boss. Really good, like I said, for PvP, especially if you're provoking. So this is on a possible 1-turn cooldown if you book it, but yeah, each provoke possibly filling turn meter of all allies when hit. So yeah, overall extremely good champion. Definitely worth going for if you're trying to get a dwarf. She can definitely help in the secret room for Doom Tower, faction wars, PvP, and honestly overall progression she probably does very well as well. Next is going to be an orc by the name of Sandlashed Survivor. So Sandlashed Survivor, smell weakness on the A1, attack one enemy 2 times, has a 30% chance or 50% chance if you book it of placing a provoke debuff on the target for 1 turn if this champion has no debuffs. Just keep that in mind, that's very key. In order to land that provoke ability, you're going to have no debuffs. Or heals by 15% of the damage inflicted if this champion is under any debuffs. So if you're under debuffs, you're going to be healing. If you're not, you're going to be provoking. Not very reliable in my opinion, unfortunately, but the rest of her kit pretty much makes up for it. A2, attack all enemies, decrease the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn, and increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. Very basic, nothing crazy here. But then you have the passive Born Survivor, places a 50% ally protection buff on all allies for 2 turns when an ally's HP drops below 50%. Also places a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn, and you can drop this down to a 4-turn cooldown. This is like the ability I think she's known for pretty much, but the 50% ally protection is really cool, while also putting a block damage buff on this champion, so you're pretty much soaking up a lot of the damage from what the ally protects, and then you have block damage so you're not taking any damage. I've seen this happen a lot in PvP, and it's very annoying because she pretty much just protects the team, keeps everyone alive. I know she's also known for being used in Clan Boss as well, so keep that in mind. And then has the aura, increase allied defense in all battles by 25%. Overall, not a bad champion by far at all. Definitely not like a provoke champion in my opinion though. Like, it's very I don't know, it's just not a reliable way of provoking, I guess, more or less. But overall, as a champion, she is a very good champion. Not sure if you would be going for her during a 10 times event, but definitely wouldn't feel bad if you got her. Like I said, she's used a lot in Clan Boss, so yeah. Next one is going to be, so we're going to get into the Void people now. So first we're going to look at Angar. So Angar, really good Void champion in my opinion. So on the A1, attack one enemy 2 times, places an extra hit if the enemy has a provoke debuff. So when you talk about provoke champions, that is what this champion is all about. As you can see on the A1, 2 times, hits a 3rd time if they have a provoke. On the A2, Infuriate, attack all enemies, places a provoke debuff on them for 1 turn, and then places a 30% reflight damage buff on all allies for 2 turns, and also places a counterattack buff on this champion for 2 turns, and then you can drop this down to a 3-turn cooldown. So yeah, before we get into me explaining some stuff, we'll go into his passive, Bravado. If an enemy with provoke debuff attacks, has a 40% chance, which can go up to 50, of placing a provoke debuff on them for 1 turn. Each hit taken will reduce damage taken by 5% up to 30% in 1 round. So the really cool thing with this kit is that he's placing provoke on them. and then he has that counterattack. But when he is attacked with an enemy with Provoke, he has a chance of placing that Provoke again, which means that he can almost permanently keep up Provokes depending on your luck, which is really, really cool. And then obviously when he's counterattacking, when a Provoke champion hits him, he's hitting 3 times instead of 2, which is really awesome. And then his aura increased ally HP and faction crypts by 44%. Nothing crazy there. But overall, a very extremely good CC champion, Arena, Faction Wars, even Doom Tower. I actually used him in Doom Tower hard waves in order to get through some of the waves, just because you were not wanting them to get their abilities off. And with Infuriate, you're landing the Provoke, and then you have that possibility of keeping people under Provoke and keeping them locked down. So yeah, overall, I think he's an overlooked Void champion. But yeah, really, really good at what he does. Looks pretty cool. So next champion is going to be a demon spawn by the name of Umbral Enchantress. So Umbral Enchantress, probably one of the best provokers in the game. But yeah, let's go through her kit. So on the A1, attack one enemy, damage increases as current HP decreases. This is very key in terms of how her kit is. So yeah, very basic A1 though. On the A2, Immolate, attack all enemies, has a 80% chance or 100% chance if you book it of placing a block buffs debuff for 3 turns. Really, really good ability, and the fact that it's a 3-turn cooldown, so 100% chance pretty much of doing block buffs for the most part. Yeah, really good ability. And then the A3, which is what she's known for, Undying Evil. Attack all enemies, has a 80% chance or 100% chance if you book her of placing a provoke debuff for 2 turns, places an unkillable buff on this champion for 2 turns, places a block cooldown skill debuff on this champion for 5 turns. The block cooldown skill debuff cannot be resisted or blocked and cannot be removed. So I do want to keep this in mind. Cannot be removed. It can be removed from things like if you cleanse and whatnot. So do keep that in mind. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's a bug, maybe it's not. But from my experience, you can remove that debuff. But yeah. So the fact that you're landing an AoE provoke, it's for 2 turns. And then you're also unkillable for 2 turns, which kind of goes in term with the A1, because obviously you're going to be taking damage, so you're going to be using your A1, which damage increases as your HP decreases, and the fact that you're being locked out of your skills for 5 turns, so you're pretty much only doing your A1, which kind of helps. Overall, extremely good champion. The fact that she's a void means that she's not going to get any weak hits, which means you always have a 100% chance if you book her of landing that provoke, as long as you have the accuracy for it. One of the best CC champions in the game. She pretty much single-handedly helped me get through Faction Wars just because of the amount of CC that she brings. Typically, you can use the A3, just provoke everyone, or you can just go from the A2 into the A3. Very good, like on the Valkyrie waves in Faction Wars, you pretty much lock them out, or use this block buffs debuff, and then they'll use their ability to put the shield and counterattack, but they won't get it. But yeah, overall, can't say like too much about this champion, but she's just extremely, extremely good. So definitely a champion worth going for, in my opinion, if you're looking for provoke champions. I've also seen her used in Arena for locking out people as well. Overall, like I said, extremely good champion. And then we have the last champion, which everyone is going to want to go for, me included, Krisk the Ageless. So extremely cool looking champion overall, but his kit is absolutely amazing. So first off, A1, enter the morass, attacks all enemies, has a 30% chance or 50% chance if you book it of placing a 30% decrease speed debuff for 2 turns. That is his A1, guys. So he has an AoE A1 that has a decreased speed debuff. On the A2, you have Centuried of Vigor. Attack all enemies, places a 50% ally protection buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. and then places two 15% continuous heal buffs on this champion for 1 turn, increase the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn, can drop this down to a 3-turn cooldown. I don't know what to say about this, guys. Honestly, another AoE ability, adding ally protect, adding continuous heal to himself, and increasing duration of all buffs everyone already has. Absolutely crazy ability. Then we have the A3, Invincible Shell, places a Provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Then places a 60% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns, and places a 30% increased speed buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. This champion is just ridiculous. Yeah, so you're CCing with Provoke, you're adding increased defense to everyone, and then you're getting everyone an increased speed, which allows them to go quicker. Yeah, just read the ability, guys. And then you have the passive, which, once again, absolutely amazing. So at the start of each round, place a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns, equal to 50% of this champion's max HP, which he does have a base HP of 19.5 pretty much, so really good HP champion, even though he's listed as defense, because his defense is absolutely ridiculous, but has a 75% chance, 100% chance if you book it, sorry, placing a 60% decreased defense debuff and a 50% decreased attack debuff on the attacker for 1 turn when hit, which obviously interacts with the A1 or A3 with the Provoke, but in general with AoE attacks this also will proc, so you're getting a free decreased defense and decreased attack pretty much majority of the time. Yeah, not much to say about this champion. He is absolutely amazing. I've heard him carry people through faction wars extremely easy. He is a king of PvP, and overall just an amazing champion, guys. So this single-handedly would make me go after Void during this 10 times event. Unfortunately, we just had a Void 2 times event, so I know a lot of people are probably out of Void shards. But if you get this champion, Krisk will literally change your account, in my opinion. So yeah, definitely would go after Krisk if I could. But yeah, overall, guys, that is it for all the champions for this 10 times. Overall, I think there are a couple of champions such as Krisk, Umbral, Angar, so all the Void champions. And then you also have Maulie Tankard, which is really good. Sandlashed Survivor is pretty good. Warchief has his niche abilities, and Seneschal and Crimson Helm. Decent at what they do. I definitely wouldn't go after Crimson Helm. Seneschal could be pretty good. But yeah, if I was going to summon during this event, I would definitely do Void Shards if you have them left. The Ancients and the Ancient Shards, I definitely would probably pass on, just because your chances of getting Crimson Helm and Seneschal are a little bit higher with Ancients. If you're going to use Sacreds, Maulie and Warchief are somewhat worth going for. Maulie definitely, I should say. Warchief on the iffy side. I would take a Warchief. But yeah. So yeah, overall, I would say Void Shards definitely, Ancients and Sacreds maybe if you're looking for these champions, but maybe avoid it, because 2 times Ancient, I believe, is next week, so you might want to keep your Ancients at the very least for next week. Yeah, but if you guys liked the video, like I said, please leave a like and subscribe for future content. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys are going for. I'm pretty sure everyone's going to be going for Krisk if you can, but yeah. I will talk to you guys later. See ya.